for a special report online. Today we're going to break down actress Rose McGowan's controversial #MeToo speech on Friday morning at the Women's Convention in Detroit, where she allegedly accused movie director Harvey Weinstein of sexual assault. Joining us today is the recognized speech analyzer Ida Krause to break down this stirring speech and help us understand how her inappropriate use of language is aggressively enforcing her ideology in the minds of the audience, actually having the opposite effect of her intended impact. Welcome, and thank you for joining us, Ida Krause.
Well, hello, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Welcome, and good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Well, I'm very happy to be here, and well, this speech is certainly very compelling and very interesting to analyze, because I think that in a way it's very powerful and it touched many women at the convention. However, as you mentioned, it is very clear that some of her use of language is slightly inappropriate, and the language use doesn't suggest that same sympathy for the opposite sex.
So, Ida Krause, tell me, how do you feel about this speech? What is her main purpose?
Well, to answer this question, we have to really break the speech down into smaller parts. First of all, from what I've gathered, it seems that her target audience was specifically women who have been sexually assaulted and are afraid to call out their attacker. And the main purpose is to empower women and to give them the strength to speak up about sexual harassment, joining them as one single strong force so they can fight back against said oppression.
But how successful did she get this purpose through? Don't you think it was a little bit tough on men? It's clear that her tone was meant to be brave and empowering women because it's encouraging them to raise their voice. And it provided a sense of unity for the women, making them feel represented. However, in a way, it's discriminating men and pushing them away. She said, "We're no nation, we're no country, we belong to no flag, we're a planet of women, and you will hear us roar." But don't you think a significant portion of the world are men also?
Well, yes, I understand what you mean, but we do have to keep in mind that her target audience is women who have been attacked and sexually assaulted, and the best way to unify them is by pushing away their greatest fear, which is in this case men.
And what about their voices?
Men's voices?
Yeah.
We'll address this later. So the theme, as I mentioned, is clearly female empowerment, not equality in this case. She is not the average feminist. She's not only trying to find equality, she's trying to find justice for herself because she has had a traumatic experience, and she's trying to find justice for all other women in the world.
I understand that. However, don't you think that she's trying to fight her rights and earns men's respect so that these situations don't happen anymore? She should be including them instead of pushing them away. They are just a big part of this as women too. So I don't think this was effective at all in supporting her cause.
Well, I understand your point, but as I mentioned, we cannot deny that the speech itself is very compelling. Overall, structure-wise, the way that she spoke at the convention actually slightly resembled Obama's inauguration speech back in 2009, which I'm sure you remember was one of the most persuasive and powerful speeches that the United States of America has seen in a long time. And so the structure is quite similar because she starts with a greeting to everybody at the convention and by thanking some specific individuals that really allowed for this situation to be possible. This is very similar to something that Obama does. Then she mentions a personal story that really touches the audience, using a lot of pronouns like us and we and you, which is creating a sense of unity. She's making all the females feel connected. She also ends her speech once again by thanking everybody and giving one final, very powerful metaphoric sentence. She says, "My name is Rose McGowan, and I am brave, and I am you." Now, as I mentioned, the use of the pronoun you is very powerful in this case because it's directly addressing the audience and it's making them feel connected, like there's someone protecting them and speaking up for them.
Well, I really don't see that same relationship with that other speech by Michelle Obama, but well, yes, she is using a pathetic language, but we can't ignore the violence in some of her sentences. Take a look at this sentence where she says, "And they're the same, and they must die. It is time." She's deliberately attacking men at this point. It's not just a matter of making women strong. It's a matter of pushing the men down. Like, it's violent and it has an aggressive language.
Now, I see that this is what it seems like in the speech, but we know from the background story and from this tweet that she made that says, "Women fight on, and to the men out there, stand up. We need you as allies. Hashtag be brave." So she actually does support men. It's not that she hates them or anything. But yes, I agree that she is being excessively violent in this particular speech, although I believe it's only a hyperbole to further emphasize her point and make the women feel connected.
I see, but I think that we're trying to analyze how her language in this speech is sending a message, not her tweets. And if you look at this personal story she mentions, "I have been silenced for 20 years. Silenced? Sorry, but she hasn't. She had every right to speak up against sexual assault without the need of starting a sexist campaign that's not even hers. Not all of them are rapists. I understand that this creates a lot of empathy from the female audience who have been assaulted. But what about everybody else? It's not just men that disagree, it's women too. What about the other public figures that disagree with this? What about their opinion?"
Well, I see where you're coming from, but we have to keep in mind who the target audience is at all times, because this will strongly influence what she says. And this is not only in the case of Rose, this is in the case of every speech that has ever been made. The target audience will always have an effect on what it is that you're going to say. So it's true that she fails at connecting with everybody in the world, but this is kind of irrelevant because she sure connects with her target audience because she got incredible support from that speech. Now, take a look at this metaphor that she uses. She says, "Because we have thorns, and our thorns carry justice, and our thorns carry consequence." Now, this metaphor, which is also a repetition, creates a very strong visual image in any reader. Now, let's put ourselves in the shoes of one of these women who has been harassed. Let's use the form of ethos. So, does this not make you feel strong? The use of the word thorns is representing female strength through the suffering that they have been through. It is making the women feel like they don't have to feel ashamed for what happened. In fact, they should feel proud that they survived it and that they pulled through. And this is the effect that she wanted on her audience. They are feeling compelled by her and they feel happy.
Yes, I do agree with that, but there are still things that she has made mistakes on. I'm sure you notice her use of statistics. For example, it's all told through 96% males in the Director's Guild of America. I mean, sure, statistics are good. I know, I mean, like, sure, statistics are good because they prove that she knows what she's talking about. But it's also very biased. She didn't mention the part of the statistics showing that in recent times, many more women are participating for movies as well. I mean, isn't the world changing and we're not modernizing? The movie industry is trying to move on from this reputation, and she's not letting this happen. She's staying with the same close idea of making women be stereotyped as not being part of society. Furthermore, the quote, "The monsters face everywhere in my nightmare." Take a look at this symbolism. It's completely discriminating on men and depicting them as monsters. It's like they're no longer people at all, but evil creatures that we should all be afraid of. Supporting this argument, she has also repeated this same intention of men not deserving to be alive in other interviews, such as one made by BuzzFeed, where she clearly states there's a lot of people that don't deserve to be alive. Put it that way. There's a lot of people who also get the face and body they deserve. There's a lot of destroyers, and there's that collusion. She creates an effect of violence, and this may be distorting her main idea that it's supposed to empower women. But that empowerment of men of them doesn't mean to kill all men or make them disappear. They're also a great influence, like in all society. They're important too.
Well, look at it from her point of view. If you have been sexually assaulted, I'm sure that you would feel the same. Now, the word nightmare itself is suggesting that what happened should not be something that occurs in the real life. It's like straight out of a bad dream, because these kind of situations should never happen. And this must be a very traumatizing experience. And I see your point, but at another point in the speech, she makes another reference, which is actually contradicting what you said above. She says, it's time to clean house. Now, this metaphor really has two meanings, but depends on the way that you see it. I think that in a way, she's trying to say that it's time to reset the whole world's mindset and their way of thinking. And she means this in two senses. One of them being that people need to stop thinking of women as objects that men can just use for their sexual pleasure whenever they want to and get away with it. But it is also saying that it's time to get rid of the stereotype that all men are monsters and that all men are rapists, because it's only a very small selected group of them. And now personally, my favorite part of the speech is this. She says, for all of us who have been grabbed by the motherfucking pussy, pussies grab back. Now, I'm sure that you and everyone remembers Trump's sexist comment when he said grab him by the pussy. Well, this is a very obvious allusion to said speech. Now, of course, this is slightly funny, but have you ever heard of something so powerful? She is speaking up against her own president. This is providing a sense of rebellion. She's directly attacking him for oppressing her and all women, when it is his job to protect the women of his nation and keep them safe. And this is giving women strength and making them feel like somebody is there for them.
Sorry, but do you think it's okay to attack our president?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I see that something is wrong with what he said. Totally, I understand. I completely understand that because I'm a woman. I understand how that might feel. But directly challenging the authorities could start a sort of rebellion. Now, I don't think this is a good message to be sending out into the world. It's too violent. You can't fight violence with more violence. But anyway, I think we're running out of time.
Okay, so to conclude, she ends her speech in a very high note with the following repetition. We are pure, we are strong, we are brave, and we will fight. Once again, her use of pronouns is very strong because the we is providing a sense of unity for all of the women out there. There is no denying that she has touched the hearts of the women she is trying to reach out to, and the backlash she received is obviously from non-supporting groups. So I think that even though there might have been some bias and false claims and a few contradicting use of verbs here and there, this is a very powerful speech nonetheless, which definitely fulfilled its purpose.
Alright, anyway, I think our time there has just about run out. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we hope to see you soon again.
Thank you so much for having me.
And now, moving on with the predicted weather for tomorrow in New York. Come on, Patrick.
A very vicious storm coming into play. Not out west, not in the southeast. It's the nation's midsection. Snow's breaking out throughout the morning hours into northern portions of Kansas toward